Hi everyone, welcome to Tamari's World. For today's video, this will be a crochet tutorial for the Lesbian Pride Flag top. Happy Pride Month to everyone out there. I'm starting with the lesbian flag top because I'm a lesbian myself and I needed to make one for my own videos. And also I have a rainbow one and I have a different version of the lesbian flag. I have a whole bunch of pride flag tops that I plan to make tutorials for, hopefully all by the end of June. So be on the lookout for that. This video is kind of for more intermediate level crocheters. If you're like a beginner but you've done a few projects already, you might be able to do this, but it is a little bit advanced level. Just going to get into the video and I hope you enjoy it. This is the style of top that we will be making today. It folds over like this in the back with the crisscross like you saw in the intro. I don't have the one that we'll be making today, but it's the same kind of style, just with different colors. But the colors that you will be needing for this top are pink, white, and orange. These are all from Walmart, just acrylic yarn. The hook that I'll be using is a 5mm hook to go with the medium weight yarn. Using this top as a reference, the lesbian flag top that I will be making today will have orange for this part. It'll be white here and pink at the bottom. And we're going to start here at this bottom row with the orange and make our way going this way upwards into making the string. The size of the top that I'll be making today is a size small to fit my chest, but you can use this size chart to make whichever size that you need. So to start off, I'm going to begin by chaining the amount that is the length of the cup that you need for the chart. So I'm going to just chain until mine gets to 6 inches because that's how big my cup size is. And I happen to know that my size for a size small is around 20 chains, but I'm just going to measure it just in case. Starting here, it is about 5.5 inches. So I'm just going to do about 2 more chains and get it up to 6. There we have about 6 inches. This is 22 chains for my cup. And like I said, you could just make this however long that you need to for your cup size according to the chart, and it should be the size that you need. This entire part of the top will be done using half double crochets, and I am just going to chain 1 to signify the end of this row. And I'm not going to insert my hook into the chain that is directly right next to my hook, but I'm going to insert it into this next one with a half double crochet. To do that, I will yarn over and then insert my hook into that chain, pull it through the first loop, and then I will pull it through all 3 loops on the hook. Oop, if I can get it. Pull it through all 3 loops on the hook, and that is a half double crochet. I'm going to show you it again because that one messed up. I'm going to yarn over, insert it into this next stitch right here, and then pull it through the first one, yarn over, and then pull it through all 3 loops on the hook. And we're just going to complete this half double crochet across the entire row for this first row. Once again, yarn over, insert it into the chain, pull through the first one, pull through 3, and then continue that across the entire row. We have made it to the end of the row with just 2 half double crochets left. That is 1, and then this last one right here. And boom, and I can even pull this to tighten that there. And to end this row, I am going to chain 1 and then turn my work. And this is what the first row should look like. Now for the second row, we are going to start doing decreases on both this end and this end. So decreases when you start and when you end. And ignore my nails, please. I need to do them, I know. But to start off our decreases, first thing that I am going to do is yarn over and then insert my hook into this first chain. Make sure you get both of the loops onto that hook. So I have both loops on there. I'm going to insert my hook, and for the first decrease I'm going to pull it through, and then to do my decreases I pull through just 2, not all 3 this time, just 2, and then I'm going to insert my hook straight into this next one right here, and then I'm going to yarn over, pull it through that loop right there, and then I am going to pull it through all 3 like a normal half double crochet. And that does seem a little confusing, but we just combined both of these 2 loops right here into one half double crochet, and this is known as a decrease. And I'm also going to show you it again when we get to the end, so no worries about that. I'll show you that again plenty of times. But for these next few stitches until we get to the end, I am just going to add in regular half double crochets like we've been doing for row 1, and until you get to the last 2 stitches on the end. You want to leave those for the decrease, but all of these just get a regular half double crochet as normal. I have only 2 stitches left, 1, 2 right here, and this is where I'm going to start my decrease. So first I'm going to yarn over, insert my hook into the first open stitch right here, and I am going to pull it through that loop right there, and then I'm going to pull through the first 2 loops on my hook. Now I only have 2 loops on my hook. I'm going to insert it into this last stitch right here, get both loops on the hook, and I'm just going to pull it through that hoop right there, the loop right there, and then I'm going to pull it through all 3 to complete that double crochet and the decrease. To end the row, I'm just going to chain 1, turn my work, and from now on we are going to be continuing the same pattern of alternating a row full of regular half double crochets with no decreases, and then a row of half double crochets with decreases. So since we just did a row with decreases, this next row that we're going to do is going to be a full row of half double crochets with no decreases. So just half double crochets across the entire row here, just as we did in row 1. We have made it to the end of the row, the last half double crochet, which is going into that decrease, and this is what that looks like. Now I'm just going to chain 1 to end the row, turn my work, and here we have it. And you can already see it's starting to kind of form the like triangle shape that's going to be the bottom, and it's just going to keep going this way into the triangle as we continue on with these decreases. Now that we're here, we're just going to continue on with the same pattern. So since this row was normal, this row had decreases, this row was normal, the next row is going to have decreases. And you can also use stitch markers or something to like mark rows with decreases so you know and you don't have to remember. I just keep going and I just do it like this. I don't really use stitch markers, but if you use them, this is when you would use them. Anyways, continuing on, I'm going to add a decrease into these first 2 stitches since this is a decrease row. So for the decrease, I'm going to yarn over, insert it into the first stitch, pull through the first one, pull through 2, insert it into the next one, pull it through, and then pull through all 3. That is the decrease, and then for the rest of these stitches, it is just going to be a regular half double crochet. Now I'll show you the decrease one more time when we get to the end. And with just 2 stitches left, this last stitch is very hard to see sometimes, but it's there. 1, 2. So I'm just going to insert it into this stitch, make sure it's in focus, insert it, pull it through 2, and then insert it into this stitch, which is hard to find, but it's there. You just have to make sure you go through the first one and then find the second one on the back, which can be hard to find. It'll create like a V shape with the one that you're supposed to be. So this one and this one right here creates kind of a V shape. So I'm just going to try to get that onto the hook like that. And I'm sorry that it keeps going out of focus, but some of those were in focus, so you could see that. But anyways, then I'm just gonna pull it through and pull through all three, and then chain one to end the row. This is what we have. Now I am literally just going to repeat these same steps, the next row being a row full of just regular half double crochet, since it is our regular row. The row after that with decreases, regular decreases, until you get a triangle and you are just at the very tip of the triangle. I'm going to continue these steps until I get to more of the top of the triangle, and then I'm going to show y'all what to do next. I've made it up to here. I have 4 half double crochets here at the top. If you started with an odd number here at the bottom, you're probably going to have an odd number here at the top, but that's fine because you just need 1 at the end. You just need to end with 1. There's ways to do it with an odd number, with an even number, but you just want to make sure that you end up with 1 at the top. The way that I track my decreases is by these little knots here on the end of the row. Every single row with a decrease is going to have a kind of knot at this part. So this is just how I track my rows with decreases. So we can see 1 here, 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 alternating until we get to the top. So that means that the next row here, since this is a decrease, it's going to have a decrease right here. I'm going to start here with a decrease. I'm just going to insert it, pull through 2, insert it into the next one, pull through 3. And since there are 4 here, these next 2 are going to have a decrease as well, because there aren't any more in the middle to do a regular half double crochet. So we're just going to do 2 decreases here to end off this row. I'm just going to chain 1 and then turn my work, and then now we have this next row with only two half double crochets as our decreases. And since this is our normal row, I am just going to insert 1 half double crochet into the first stitch and 1 half double crochet into the next stitch. Chain 1 to end the row, and then turn my work, and this is our decrease row next up. And since there are only 2 right here, I am just going to use both of these for the decrease. If you have an odd number, you would have 3, and you can do a decrease in the first 2, a regular one in the last one, and then you would just need to do another row of regular normal crochets and then a decrease row. You just have to get it down to 1, but there are ways to do it either way. Since I have 2 right here, I am going to insert a decrease into both of these last stitches right here. Insert into that one, pull through all 3. I'm just going to chain 1, turn my work, and we are at 1 half double crochet, but since we are on a decrease row, we're not going to end on a decrease row. We're just going to insert 1 more half double crochet into the very top, and it's going to be this. It's hard to see, but it's going to be this stitch right here on the side right here. So I'm just going to insert my hook into that stitch, insert a half double crochet, chain 1, and this is the end of the triangle portion of the top. So we have it here, and it looks like a long triangle for the cup portion of the top, where we end with just 1 half double crochet up here. Now, just to end this off, I'm just going to do the string, and for the string I just do chains. Using this top as an example, the string from the top is going to wrap around through this loop on the back and then come through here. So you want it to be long enough to be able to wrap around the shoulder and through the back around the waist and still be able to tie it in a bow. So for this, I usually like to chain about 150. You can make it however long that you would like to make it, but 150 is a good estimate for it to be long enough for this. So to start off, I will just chain as normal until I get to 150. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 47, 48, 49, 150. 150, I'm just gonna pull off a little bit, cut my yarn here, and then I pull this through. To end all of my strings in my ties, I just like to do another knot at the end to make it a little bit bigger. To do this, I just wrap it around my finger to make a knot, and then I push the knot up to where it's at the very end of the tie, and then I pull it tight, just so there is a bigger knot at the end, and then I cut it off here. And this is the end of the first cup for the top. So this is what we have so far. This is the first cup with the string here. We are going to make one more just like this. So we have 2 cups with the same string. After we have the second one, then we are going to continue on with the band part of the top to complete the top. But we're just going to complete the same steps from this previous part and make another one, and then we're gonna come back. I have finished this second cup right here. We have 2 identical cups like this. Once we have both of these, now we can start working on the band pieces and switching our colors finally. Using this bisexual flag top as a reference, the band part here wraps around the back, so we need sort of an extra like hanging area before we get to this. So we're going to start right here on this end and start with a chain and chain this part, and then begin adding it onto here. And I'm going to show y'all how we're going to do that. To start off with the band, because this is the lesbian pride flag, the next color is going to be white in the middle and then pink at the very end. So next up, we're going to start with the white. I'm just going to do a slip knot to begin, just like that. I'm going to insert my hook into the slip knot, and then to start, I like to just chain 15 for the extra band piece. If you need your top to be a bigger size than mine is a size small, but for bigger tops, I can chain more. So I'd like to do 15 to 20. It really just depends on what size that you need, because this is an adjustable pattern. So I'm going to chain 15 here because that is going to be enough to wrap around my back and also leave a bit of space in the middle. You want about maybe like 3 inches of space in the middle of your back. It's going to have the corset tie kind of pattern, so you need space for that. So like I said, I'm just going to chain 15. Anywhere from 15 to 20 will work for this part, depending on the size that you need. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 15. Once I have 15 chains on my hook, I'm going to insert it into this last stitch that has the end on it, because I like to weave my ends in as I work, so it'll just be easiest to do it this way. So to start, I'm going to yarn over, insert my hook into the stitch, this very first stitch right here, hold the end over my work so that it is tucked underneath my work as I go, and then I am just going to insert a double crochet into this stitch. Double crochet is going to be pulled through 1, pull through the first 2, and then pull through 2 more. And you can just pull this to tighten it down. And then continuing on, I'm just going to add a double crochet into each one of these stitches while keeping this end over the work to tuck it under. So I'm going to insert it, pull it through 2 of the loops, and then pull it through 2 more. Continuing on, I am just going to insert into the next stitch, pull it through 2, pull it through 2, and as you can see, it is tucking this end underneath my work as I go so that I don't have to tuck it in later. You don't have to do it this way if this isn't the way that you normally do it. This is just how I like to do it, and it's the easiest way for me. But you can just leave all of the ends out and tuck them in at the end if that's easiest for you. But continuing on, just each one of these stitches in this row is going to get a double crochet where you insert the hook, you pull it through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So I'm just going to continue with double crochets in every stitch along this row until I get to the very end. Okay, I have 2 stitches left on this row. I am just going to add a double crochet here and then a double crochet in this very last stitch here. Once you get to the end, I am just going to grab this next top, and this is when we are going to combine them. I'm going to turn it upside down like I did with this one, and I'm going to start on the end that has the end like I did with the first one as well. Open up this end a little bit, and then I'm going to immediately put my hook into this next stitch right here. I am going to insert a single crochet into this stitch just to join these cups together. So I'm going to pull it through that stitch and then pull it through both loops on the hook, and then back into the same stitch I'm going to add a double crochet, and this will be the beginning of this row for this next cup. That single stitch was just to join both of the cups together, and then after that I'm just going to pull this tighter so that that hole is kind of gone. Now moving on to this next stitch right here, I am going to add a double crochet while tucking under this end, and I'm just going to continue on with the same pattern as before, doing 1 double crochet into each of the stitches until I get to the end of the row, and it looks just like this one. 1 stitch left right here. This one's kind of big, but I'm just going to insert here with a double crochet. Once you get to the very end, remember that we have to add this little string here. So this is not the end of the row when you get here, because you have to add this string part like we did at the beginning. So after you finish that last double crochet, you're going to chain the same amount that you did on the other side, and I chained 15, so I'm going to chain 15. 1 2 3 4 5 15. And once we have the end of this, I've finished 15, and ignore this knot here. I accidentally cut the yarn, and you're not supposed to. But once you have 15, now you're just going to turn your work, and we are going to begin working this way on the top. So to start out this next row, it is going to be a row full of double crochets, just like the previous row. I'm going to be inserting my hook into this second stitch right here, and I'm just going to ignore the knot there. But I'm going to insert my hook here, and then, insert my hook, and then do a double crochet right here. Continuing on, we are just going to add double crochets in all of these stitches as we go, and everything is going to be normal double crochets into all of these stitches until you get into the middle, and then I'll show you what to do there. So I'll stop sometime around here, but everything will just get a double crochet in all of these stitches. I've made it to where we only have a few stitches left in this row. I'm just going to do these last few double crochets. Oh, that is not... Once we finish here and we get to this middle stitch, the very last one, I'm going to insert a double crochet through the middle. So I'm not going to insert it into like one of the holes, but just through here to just combine here. So I'm just going to yarn over and insert my hook through the bottom of the thing, just through the entire thing, pull it up, and then do a double crochet as normal. And it's a little difficult to see it, but I'm just gonna try. So you're just gonna pull it through that first one, and it's gonna be a little tight, but just pull it through and then pull it through 2, and then pull it through the last two and complete the double crochet as normal. This is just something that I do for the middle so that it's not just this big gap between it, and it kind of has one in the middle there. Now continuing on, we're just going to go into this next one right here, which is the very first stitch of this next cup. So I'm going to insert my hook into this hole right here and insert a double crochet. Just like this. And then as you continue on, this hole is going to kind of close up and everything will look more seamless with that double crochet in the middle. But moving on, I'm just going to double crochet into all of these stitches in the rest of the row, including the stitches in the chain stitch. So I'm going to double crochet all the way across the end until we get to the very end like we did with the first one. So it's going to have another end just like this with double crochets here. And when you get to here, it doesn't necessarily matter which way that you go into this chain. Mine is kind of like backwards right now. This is more so the front of it. This is more the back in my brain at least. But I like to hold it to here when it's like the front, not when it's this way, when it has the part in the middle. But or you just see like the V shape. That's kind of how I like to hold it when I start going into here. And I'm just going to go into this first one right here. It's really small, but you want to get as close as you can to the base so that it doesn't have any holes there. So I'm just going to try to insert my hook into this stitch. It might be a little difficult, but there is a hole there, so I should be able to put it in there. And then just do a double crochet like normal, and then it'll orientate the chain this way so that it'll be facing the right way as we continue on. And you just want to make sure that it's always facing the right way, that you don't get to like the middle and then it's suddenly turned to the outside, because you want it to all be the same way. I finished my last double crochet of this row. I'm going to kind of tighten that in there, and then I'm going to chain one, turn my work, and now this is what the top should look like, a row of double crochets right there. So now this next row is where we're finally going to start adding in the holes in the top. So for this row, what we're going to be doing is one double crochet in this first stitch. All of them will start with one double crochet. For the size of the holes, I like to chain 3 and leave a space of 3. You can do 2 for a smaller hole, you can do 4 for a bigger hole, but 3 is just the number that I like to use, so we're just going to do it with 3. So to start off, I am just going to, from ending this double crochet, I'm going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to skip 3 chains to match up with the 3 that I chained. So 1, 2, 3, we're going to skip all of these, and then we're going to go right into this next one, into this fourth one with a double crochet. So that means I'm going to yarn over, insert my hook into this stitch right here, this fourth one that we counted, and then I'm going to do a double crochet just like we've been doing. And that is going to create that hole right here. Now continuing on, we're going to do the same exact thing, chaining 3, 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to skip 3, 1, 2, 3, go into this fourth hole right here with a double crochet. We're going to pull through 2, pull through 2, and that is just going to create the holes that are going to be in this row for the top. So we're just going to continue this all the way across until we get to the very end, and we're just going to repeat this pattern and create holes all the way down. So once again, it's just going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to skip 3, 1, 2, 3, go into this one right here with a double crochet. I'm going to chain 3, yarn over, skip 3, insert it into the fourth one with a double crochet. And I'm going to continue that on as I go until I get to the end of the row. And this is a perfect example of like when you don't have the correct number. So I'm at the very end and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here. So if I skip 3, 1, 2, 3, I'll end up here and I'll have 1 left. I could do 4 and have it here. You could do it in the middle. For me, it doesn't really matter that much. I'm just going to make this one 4 instead of 3. So instead of chaining 3 like I did here, I'm just going to add 1 more chain 4 instead, and then just insert it into the very last stitch here on the end. And I promise you, nobody will ever know, because nobody's going to count your stitches, and you can't really tell that it's that much bigger. It's not significantly bigger. Continuing on, I'm just going to chain, and then we are going to turn our work to begin the next row. This is what the top is looking like right now. Just a row of holes and a row of regular. To end off this color, this white color, I'm just going to add 1 final row of double crochets, just like this row right here, all the way across. So starting here, I'm going to yarn over, insert my hook into this double crochet hole right here, the very top hole, and then insert a double crochet. Insert a double crochet here. And then all of these stitches are going to get a double crochet. It's a little hard to get into these chain stitches, but I just like to flip them over. Like I said, this is the underside of them and this is the top side of them. I like to go into the top side of them every single time to make sure everything is the same way. If you can go into the bottom if you prefer to do that, but just make sure that you go into the bottom each time that you do it, so nothing is like flipped around or turned over. But I'm going to go into the top. So first one, I'm just going to make sure I have the 3. 1, 2, 3. So this is going to be the first stitch, not this little hole right here. I don't have to go into that one, but just 1, 2, 3 are the ones that I'm going to go into. So I'm just going to go into this one right here with a double crochet, and then insert another double crochet into the stitch right next to it, and then a double crochet into the very next one. And then when you get to the next double crochet, you're just going to insert through both of the loops, and then insert a double crochet like that. And we're just going to double crochet across the entire row. So I'm just going to find this one. This first chain is always a little hard to find because it's just so tight next to it, but insert the hook, double crochet, and then on to the next one. So I'm just going to continue on with double crochets and into every single one of these chains, and then into the double crochet stitch until I get to the very end, and that'll be the end of this white color, and I'll meet y'all when I get to the end. Made it to the end. I just have these last few chains to go. I'm just going to do the last ones and the last double crochet. Once you get to the very end, to end off this row and this color, I'm going to chain 1 and then cut the yarn here and then pull it through. I'm going to tighten this to tighten up that knot. This completes the first part of the band, the first white part, and then all we have left is do the same exact thing, just minus like this first adjoining row. We're going to do the same exact thing as these 3 rows with the pink, and that will be the end of this lesbian pride flag top. But of course, I will show you how to do that. So we're going to flip over our work, start with this end that we just ended off on. And the way that I like to add in a different color through my yarn, if you have a way that you like to do it, you can do that way. This is the way that I like to do it. I just like to insert it into the stitch that I am adding the next color into, and then I grab my next color An easier way to do it is just putting a slip knot in the color that you want to add, and then putting the hook in the chain where you want the color to be, adding the slip knot to your hook, and then pulling it on through. And then the way that you're going to continue is just do a chain 1, then kind of like tighten both of these up to tighten up that knot. And then honestly, from here you can go into that same stitch and start with your double crochet there, and then double crochet along the rest of the row while keeping these here to tuck them under. And you can even leave them out and weave them in later if that's how you prefer to do it. But this is just a simple way to add in that color on that row, and as it expands and continues, you won't even really be able to see this knot here. So it'll just be like a seamless kind of color transition. I'm just going to continue on adding double crochets into each one of the stitches until I get to the end of the row. I have a few stitches left of this row. I'm just gonna finish up this last double crochet, and then I'm gonna chain 1, turn my work, and we are going to begin with the next row. This next row is going to be exactly like this row right here with the holes, because we are literally just repeating these 3 rows right here. So we're just going to repeat this same pattern as that one. First, starting with a double crochet into this first stitch right here, and then we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Then we are going to yarn over, count 1, 2, 3, insert it into this 4th stitch right here with a double crochet. Complete the same thing, 1, 2, 3, yarn over, 1, 2, 3, into the 4th one with a double crochet. Just going to complete this until we get to the very end of the row. I have made it to 1, 2, 3, the end of the row, and this row has a perfect number just because this row kind of ended with the perfect number after we adjusted it. But I am going to just chain 1, turn my work, and we are going on with the very last row of this top, which is just a row full of double crochets, just like this row right here. So insert a double crochet into each stitch of the previous row. Try to find this first chain, which is always hard to get into, and do a double crochet and just double crochet all the way across. Okay, I just have 2 stitches left here. I am just going to insert these last 2 double crochets, and we are going to chain 1, cut our yarn, pull it through, and this will be the end of the top. I'm gonna zoom out so we can get a full view. Here is the final top that we have completed. It's gonna go like this in the back with this part of it wrapping around this way and this way using the loops, then tying at the bottom here. The only ends that I have to tuck in are this end and this end, but I'm just going to weave those in to the sides right next to them, and this top will be completed. How lovely. Thank you so much for watching this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope it was easy enough to follow and that you're able to make a lesbian pride flag top if you would want one for yourself. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I do have so many other crochet tutorials planned for this June, especially for Pride Month with my pride flag crochet tops. So be on the lookout for those. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to give this video a like if you liked it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!